we'll go from there.
Great, thank you so much. I did just want to start this morning and just kind of do a brief overview of some of the funds that we have committed already. And then again, we can just revisit the TSIA. So let me pass to you and Rob. Just so you have the numbers in front of you as I talk through them here. So we know that we had previously agreed to a MOU for Transformation Network that right now, based off current employees that are in those positions, that we've committed a little over $8.5 million related to transformation, and that's for both instructional and paraprofessionals. For our designated schools of need MOU, just over $1.5 million, again, and that's for actual employees. We know that there are still vacancies at some of those sites. And then as it relates to health insurance, the district has committed $57,874,000, which is a projected increase that the district is incurring, all of the costs associated with that increase. And then as it relates to your bargaining units, for the instructional group, that comes to $35,510,000. For the paraprofessional group, just over $5 million. And for the ESP clerical group, just over $2 million. And again, just wanted to highlight that because again, it's a commitment that the district has made towards our employees.
Right, that means that there's no, we still are maintaining the no premium option. We also know that the plans that are already in place have no increases to what's coming out of employees' paychecks. And I know there's an additional option plan now for families. That would be actually an option to have less out of the paycheck, but with a higher deductible, which will be coming later in open enrollment, and actually some reduction to the copays, which I believe the district sent that out yesterday.
Correct, yes. So that would be either a $5 reduction in copays for primary care and then a $10 reduction in copays for specialists.
Yeah.
And then the addition of Garner. That
Correct.
Will, allow employees to be able to recoup copays.
Right. Yeah, and I'll say that just in case it wasn't heard. So the application of Gardner, and that will also be available once open enrollment. And when is open enrollment, Tracy?
Oh, September 15th.
September.
Yes.
It's okay if it's not like exact, but that's usually when it is.
And that will be for an effective date of January 1st.
Yeah, so January 1st, related to copays, because we know that they went up last year. We were able to get a little bit of reduction. So to also help offset that, Gardner allows employees to, you still use your in-network doctor, but Gardner is a way to track down doctors that are also in network that allow you to go there and get reimbursement up to $1,000 in the plan year for
$2,000 per family.
$2,000 per family.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, I just wanted to kind of summarize that. Thank you.
No, we appreciate that. I mean, it's good to highlight that we are all committed to trying not to pass on those increased costs to our employees and also find opportunities to lower some of those costs.
Yeah.
And then as it relates to this teacher salary increase allocation, during our last session back on July 9th, we talked about based off of the FEFT growth allocation for Hillsborough County Public Schools that we would receive $14,839,000. Of that, though, almost $2.2 million is going to go towards charter schools. So that leaves us with a remaining allocation of just over $12.6 million towards the teacher salary increase allocation. And we talked about the specific restrictions around that pot of money going just towards classroom and certified pre-K teachers who have 10 or more years of Florida public school teaching experience. And I think it's important to just to highlight for everyone to think about, we get a total amount of money allocated to us through the base student allocation. This part, that $12.6 million, is part of that. So it's not in addition to our base student allocation, right? But it's very restrictive in terms of who we can spend that money on.
Yeah, I would say it's actually the 14.8 million is really part of the base student allocation. We'd split that with charter schools, but if you look at what the FEFP increase in funding for this year, it's actually the 14.8 is inside that $85 increase. So.
Can I ask, the 2 million that goes to charter schools, that's based on those teachers in charter schools that meet those qualifications that you just listed?
No,
Sorry.
we split, funding, FEFP is all based off of, unweighted FTE.
Gotcha.
And so that is split appropriately with charter schools based off of basically enrollment.
And then they will use that money the same way we're using that money by determining what they do with it related to the teachers that meet the
And
TSA.
the reasons that's done is because the whole FEFP process and funding is based off of student allocation.
Right. So that would mean, that's why employees will likely see different amounts in different districts based on, their FEFP, if they're more, we talk a lot here about property with rich, student rich, property poor, those sorts of things. So we will see some districts, they will get the same like formula of allocation of money, but then based on whatever's going on in that district, it could be more, it could be less, based on their employee makeup.
Right, and I think what's important too, it also depends on a lot of other factors, like how many charter schools they have and what's their enrollment compared
Sure.
to their total enrollment. So some districts are more heavy in charter schools than we are, and some are more lighter. So that makes a big difference in how that maybe $2 million is split that we do see.
Thank you.
Yes, yeah, I know one of the counties I worked in had no charter schools, so.
So they're not
much
sharing their
different,
money.
yeah, Exactly.
Okay. All right. So when we left back on July 9th, we had talked about the importance of trying to settle, and we were both in agreement that that was important to us, both the district as well as the union, on this TSIA money, because we understand that if we don't settle on it by the 30th of this month, we would have to declare impasse, one of us would. And so that's something that the state has put on us with this tight timeline. So we also heard that there is a desire to not split up our employee groups. In other words, folks who have the 10+ years of Florida teaching in public schools versus those who don't. And that's been a longstanding tradition in our district that we recognize all of the instructional bargaining units and don't try to split folks up. And so what we've done today is we have brought an economic proposal that we're going to present to you, and then we can talk specifically too around TSIA, because we've run more numbers and those numbers change a little bit. Obviously, every day is going to be a little bit different based off of who's an active employee in our district. We are also in the process of advancing people based off of last year's work experience, of crediting an employee for having an additional year of Florida public school experience. And then keeping in mind too, if we're hiring new employees, we're getting all of their work history. And so it's a constant moving target. So we'll talk through that when we get to that portion. Microphone. That everybody gets one. During our last meeting as well, Mr. Lewis, our CFO, presented kind of a state of the district, our current fiscal picture. And we talked a lot about some of the challenges that we have in our district. We know that last year.
We're good, sorry.
That's okay, you're
Little
fine.
distraction.
That's okay. We know in our budget presentation last year that we talked about the decline in student enrollment, the loss of dollars that resulted in, and we were very fortunate as a district during last year not to have to make drastic changes in response to that throughout the year. We know that there were some adjustments made for this fall, but again, we're really fortunate not to have to lay off employees or do some of those things that we see all across the state happening. And I say this because it's really important for us to understand that we're going into this school year not knowing how many kids. We have projections, right? But there's a lot of unknown and a lot of uncertainty still in our community. And so we're trying to make decisions about salaries without knowing, again, if we'll continue to see that projected drop in our enrollment. So what we have here is our economic proposal. for our instructional unit, and we'll start with number 1, that effective July 1, eligible employees in the instructional bargaining unit shall be credited with 1 year of experience and shall advance 1 level on their respective salary schedules accordingly. Eligible employees must have worked half a year plus a day and have an effective evaluation for the 25-26 school year. Number 2, and effective July 1st, 2026, eligible instructional employees at the top of their respective salary schedules will receive a one-time top step payment of $1,500. And eligible employees must have worked half a year plus a day and have an effective evaluation for the 25-26 school year. Number 3, in accordance with section 3.4.6 for the 26-27 school year, any instructional unit employee assigned to substitute duty during their planning time choosing to be compensated shall be paid at a rate of $20 per hour. Number 4, for the 26-27 school year, National Board Certified teachers who teach in a transformation school or designated school of need shall be paid a one-time $4,500 additional payment to be paid at the conclusion of the 26-27 school year. This payment is a supplement to employee-based pay, and eligible employees must be current active employees at the time of payment. Number 5, for the 26-27 school year, the parties agree to pay highly qualified teachers as defined by state and federal statute who teach in designated transformation schools. Our already agreed upon MOU is attached to the list of schools and shall be paid a salary differential of $2,000 for tier 1 or $5,000 for tiers 2 and 3 for the 26-27 school year. And employees must have an effective or higher evaluation and be certified for their assignment. Number 6, for the 26-27 school year, the parties agree to pay highly qualified teachers as defined by state and federal statute who teach in designated schools of need. The MOU is attached. Shall be paid a salary differential of $2,000 for the 26-27 school year, and employees must have an effective or higher evaluation and be certified in their assignments. Number 7, the board will pay the costs of fingerprint monitoring fees for instructional unit employees. And number 8, the board agrees to pay the full cost of an employee-only health insurance premium for a designated health plan offered by the board for instructional employees. And so that encompasses our economic proposal based off of what right now is within our budget. And I did now just kind of talk a little bit about TSIA and kind of where we are with those numbers. So last time when we met, we had an estimated count of a little over 5,900 employees that we believe fell based off of the data that we currently had. And again, we're continuing to review that constantly because it does change. Right now, we are up to an employee count of 6,459 eligible classroom teachers who are pre-K certified and who have 10 years or more of Florida public school teaching. So based off of that employee count, where they fall on the salary schedules that they are on respectively, the one step that we are proposing today with fringe, we have costed out to be $7,379,131.92. And with the top step that we have presented today too, of $1,500 with fringe, again, for those employees that would meet the TSIA language, the estimate that we have is $3,237,720.43. So that puts us at about $11,696,092. And now we know too, as we are hiring employees, and again, still sifting through records of, and sometimes maybe an incomplete record of someone's teaching history, and trying to update related to the Florida public school, we anticipate that that would get us to the $12.6 million. And so are allowing that as we're hiring employees to be counted into that group, and that we would continue to fund any salary increase that we agree upon out of this fund for TSIA.
All right. I know there's probably gonna be a lot of questions. So
No.
just, I think this should be easy. On number 5 and number 6 in the proposal, for the transformation school and the designated schools of need, this is the last sentence. Employees must have an effective or higher evaluation and be certified for their assignment. We agree, we include those who have signed an agreement to earn. I don't know that there's many in those instances,
Okay.
but they would be included, right? I
Yes.
just-
Yeah, based
they
off
were
the
just-
MOU. Yeah. And we can clarify that.
Yeah, yeah. All right. A question on, you mentioned that the top step for the longevity. You mentioned the TSAA, but you're not saying that only those that are eligible for the TSAA would receive that. Based on what's proposed here, everyone that's eligible based on this language, what we usually do is eligible, but what you're saying is that 3.2 encompasses just those for the TSAA.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, so our overall economic proposal would be all eligible employees in the instructional bargaining unit who receive the top set payment
Gotcha.
would be paid $1,500.
Yep.
And then out of that whole group, those who fall within the TSIA
Okay.
language would come out of that TSIA bucket to pay that.
Gotcha. Okay. So all employees would receive their step, and we did talk about the idea that whatever we applied to those out of the TSA that are eligible for that amount, those 6,459, if there are, say, another 3,000, 5,000 employees that would be qualified for it, but just aren't because of their outside of Florida experience.
That are roster.
Or that are not with a roster, but they're on that same step, would receive the same increase, but it would not be funded out of the TSAA. We would be able to apply the TSAA. Okay.
Yeah, keeping in mind that the base student allocation is where we get our
Yes,
funding to be able to
correct.
provide the salaries, and we just, the
Yeah.
funding source within that base student allocation would pay for those that meet the TSIA requirement.
Would you say it's kind of like, it's like a categorical, like, I mean, categoricals are within the BSA, and then the categoricals often have like you can only spend it here. Would that be fair to say, or maybe a different explanation? I don't know.
I would say that the way it has to be treated is like a
Mhm.
categorical.
Correct, right.
However, it's not money on top of the BSA, right?
Yeah.
It's within that BSA. So
It looks
it's-
like a categorical, but it's not. It's in the same
Right.
bucket.
So it's in, and we have other things like we get other funding that's within the BSA that's treated much the same.
Mhm.
But as we know, those of us who have been around this table for a long time,
Right.
when TSIA started, I think only maybe that first year it was an actual categorical.
Right.
Right.
And then they rolled it into the BSA. So this is not any different than past years where that money is what is part of our BSA
Right.
increase. However, they're now restricting
Right.
how we can use that part of our BSA money.
Right.
Well, I think too, what's important is in all years past, even when it was rolled into the BSA, it was still a restricted fund inside the BSA.
Yeah.
But now they have restricted that restricted fund a little bit
Right.
tighter. So you kind of see it narrowing down.
Yeah.
But even though it's in the BSA, and we think that's unrestricted, used for whatever, they do restrict a lot of the funds inside the BSA in that we have to funnel. So they are true categoricals, but the state doesn't recognize them that. like that
Right,
anymore.
right. So it's categorical like, or categorical-ish. And yeah, to go back to, I think it was the 2020, 2021 school year when it was first implemented, and we were held to very similar in the sense that we were restricted. But once a district achieved 47,500, then that's where, by the last few years, we've been more flexible and haven't had to kind of those, like to your point, those constraints were still there, but because we had met that one constraint, we were good to use it in flexible ways.
And
Um,
I think that to kind of help you tell the story of what's happening with our state funding, the challenge we have is BSA went up $85 per basically student, unweighted FTE. We're going to lose roughly, in comparison to state funding from last year to this year, we're already going to lose $25 million. So if we were to compare last year's state funding to what we're projecting for this current year, and again, that's all based off projections for enrollment that, we're hoping that we achieve, but something that we're monitoring, we're going to lose year over year $25 million. This 14 million is already included in that loss. So if you think about what we're able to actually strategically use, we're already losing 25 million year over year. They've given us $15 million that's already been part of that. Does that kind of make sense? So it's really, unfortunately, a really tight time with the state and how they're
Yeah.
funding. And then of course they put this restriction.
Right. Yeah, because I think it's important to understand, because a lot of employees see, wow, billions of dollars extra, and the large majority of that is not coming to our public schools. It's going to fund vouchers. And again, just being really clear about, I think $200 million to go towards this funding, new money for the state. I mean, that we would, that's like a drop in the bucket when you consider our Hillsborough's budget alone, and thinking that 200 million has to go statewide. So, and then also the misconception when the governor says it's $3,000, we are going to see that consistently across the state because of the funding formula and eligible employees. So, do you have any questions?
No, I think you're hitting them all.
Yeah. So
Now, the illustration then, I guess for everyone, is that if Regina, myself, and Britt are three teachers, right, we each have, say, 12 years of experience. I have done all 12 years in Florida and I have a roster. Regina has not taught in Florida all those many years, but has a roster. And Britt has done all of her years in Florida, but doesn't have a roster. You've now brought in a proposal that makes sure that all three of us are compensated the same way, even though only I would be getting the money out of the TSIA categorical, where these two are coming out of the general fund, to illustrate that.
That was a great lesson.
Okay.
That was perfect, spot on.
Perfect, yeah.
Very good.
Okay, yeah, because we've been also trying to educate that what the state is looking at is not, this is in addition to the step. We have a traditional step salary schedule here in Hillsborough, and other districts do too, but not all do. So what the state is interested in is, what did Britt make last year and what is she gonna make this year? Or Rob, I guess, actually, because he would be the TSA eligible person. Did
Right.
Rob did he meet that threshold that's used by the TSIA? That's all they look at. If that includes a step, great. If that includes, anything else that the district wants to add, great, but you have to use that TSIA for those individual people. So, okay.
Right, we couldn't report to the state that we use that for
Yeah.
Regina and for Britt if
Right.
Rob is the only one that meets that.
Correct,
Right.
correct, okay. So I think the only question then is kind of like how this actually looks on a salary schedule, because we know that a step is, because I think you gave us an amount of what that would look like out of the TSA, which was, I think, around $2,000, which friends would come out of that. So if a step is only about 1,300 on our current scale, do you have a kind of proposal on what that salary schedule may look like now, or?
So that would not be changing the salary schedule. So we
Okay.
run the numbers based off of those actual 6,459 active employees that we know right now meet the TSIA language. We've run giving them one step on our current salary schedule with fringe would amount to that $7,379,131.92,
Okay.
advancing those employees. And then those that also meet that TSIA language with the $1,500 top step that we proposed with fringe is the $3,237,720.43. That brought us to just over 10.6 million.
Got it. Then on question on, this is a good one, because we always get this one for the, let's see. Number 2, it's the longevity payment. How would they receive that payment? I think sometimes we'll put language in there that they receive at the end of the year. Is it a one-time payment?
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
And that's something that we would work out.
Okay. And probably the same with all of these.
Mhm.
Another question?
Give another one.
That was.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I think that's it for me. Now, just to, you read some numbers off, back from the other sheet. But then there were some numbers on here too, is.
Yes, you
is
had,
this-
you
yeah,
had
we
asked, yes, absolutely. So let me go back to that
Yeah.
for a minute. So you had requested, or
Mhm.
the union had requested to know for the entire instructional bargaining unit, what a one step on the existing salary schedules with fringe would be. We've costed that out again. It's based off of active employees. to be $10,812,028.95. And you had also requested if the salary schedules, if there was a 1% increase applied to those existing salary schedules with fringe, we've estimated that to be just over $9 million. So that you would be combining both of those if that the desire was to do a step plus the fringe.
And so then, so for one step, all in, all employees where they are, who are eligible, right? They've completed their year of service and they have their evaluation threshold met. That of that 10.8 million, of that would be funded about 7.3 million because that's the TSAA step,
Correct.
correct? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's actually, I think, very interesting and telling.
Mhm.
Because, you know, if we're looking at all, 13,000 plus, 13,200 plus employees for a step to be at 10.8, when we isolate, you know, about half.
You know what, let me,
Right.
okay, so that's
Sorry.
out of general fund. So out of all funds, if we were doing a one step with fringe for all funds, it would be $11,716,244.58.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Well, even with that, with an extra million, if we know that one step with fringe, for those that are eligible, costs 7.3 million, I mean, that's a large portion of employees that are actually gonna be eligible for the TSA funding.
Right.
And then, and this step with fringe, this 11.7 that you said, that does not include the
Top
the
step.
longevity.
Correct.
And then, okay.
So yeah, so the top step at $1,500 for all funds, including fringe, would be $4,120,802.88.
Yeah, so again, you know, if that's all folks at the top of this salary schedule getting their longevity, those that are only eligible to the TSA is 3.2 million. So again, the lion's share of folks in those categories will be receiving TSA. But what this is showing is that the district is then, out of other available funds, in addition to the TSA or around that, is funding to make up that gap. So, okay. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, I think, and let's just kind of address this, because I know the question is gonna come, you know, last year we had probably another supplement or two, especially related to our ESE. So at this time, the board's intent is to not include those.
Correct, based off of what we have available, and again, looking at trying to provide to all employees that one step within the bargaining unit, recognizing those employees at the top of the salary schedule as well. That no, not the answer to that.
Okay.
And I do want to say too, that this is the proposal that we presented is based off of it being effective July 1.
Right, oh, okay, yes, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Because it does say that effective July 1, so that would mean, based on when we can get ratification, if there are a few payroll cycles that are missed, retro would apply.
Right.
Got it. The only other thing, it's kind of related, but a little off of this. I know you did a good job of reviewing transformation designated schools of need insurance. We have also been getting, I think we kind of talked about this offline or in labor management, but we've had meetings with you all and HSCF around the millage. So maybe just kind of summarizing that too. I know that was also an update that went to employees that is continuing. There's no proposed changes in that. It's not decreasing, but it's also not increasing. If you're able to, and you can take a break if you need to do it later, but I think that the questions that we get, right, and it's perception, I think it's helpful to explain this, is why is there no increase to that if property values are going up and we're taking, you know, I know you kind of touched on this last time about how millage rates fluctuate, but I think it would be good to address that. And then also related to, you know, we haven't done, as to your point, we haven't done layoffs or reduction in force. We did unit cuts, which rearranged people, but there is a sense, you know, there's been cuts. So if there's been cuts, and property values are going up. Why is that amount not more? So you can answer now, great, but if you need time, let me know.
So I think it's a couple factors of the challenges that we're facing. So as we mentioned earlier, we just look at the state funding, not state and local, but just state funding. Year over year, we're going to lose about $25 million. Even inside that loss, they still increased the budget for the state by 14.8 million, which is the TSIA that we've been talking about. So it really hamstrings us a little bit from the state of what we have. So we have that loss we're dealing with. That loss helps overcome somewhat of potential property values increasing. And so that helps, but the biggest challenge that we've talked about here is the $60 million that the district took on overall to support health insurance. That along with the reduction in state funding is really our primary drivers. In addition to that, we did dip into our fund balance last year because inflation was growing, because we made the decision, and I think it's always the right one, to not disrupt our classrooms mid-year, even though we saw a 7,700 student loss year over year. In fact, we saw an enrollment drop every 20 days last year. Other districts had to make mid-year changes. We strategically were able to dip into our fund balance, and it did lower it. But between that and inflationary costs was really a challenge for us last year. So this past year, to kind of sum it up, this past year, we utilized our fund balance to help give negotiations last year. We just don't have the necessary fund balance anymore to do that because we've utilized it to kind of get over the challenges with our enrollment drop. But again, the emphasis this year is to help our employees to avoid any increases to their deductions for healthcare. $60 million was taken on by the district, and that's our primary problem and challenge that we're trying to overcome. And then, like I said, the natural decrease that we're seeing in FEFP state funding.
And can you speak just to the millage referendum?
Yeah, of course. So we just are able to run our final numbers for this past year. We remember that our referendum is split with charter schools. And so out of the portion that HCPS will receive, 92% of that is applied to salary enhancements. Of that 92%, about $139.2 million was set aside for salary enhancement. We spent $136.9 million this past year, which gave about $2.3 million in differential there. So we came right in at target. You would say 98, 99%, we were right on the budget. The reason that might not be adjusted for this coming year is because our employment base hasn't really changed. In fact, we're still monitoring that and what that happens. And of course, a lot of things could happen this next fall that could impact us in those millage rates. I know that education is excluded, but other things will impact us. And so our goal is to preserve this for the life of the current approval in Hillsborough County, which is 4 years. And so one of the things that we're going to monitor year over year is to make sure and ensure that these payments can be consistent over 4 years. I think what's important is we've lived in a life for the last couple of years where property values have increased. That's not always maybe what's going to happen. It very well that property values could decrease. And so what's the aftermath if it is approved in November for a property tax change? We don't know. And so I think it's good to be cautious right now of what's going to happen there. So I think it would be better to preserve this over the life of 4 years than have to overspend now and reduce that payment in maybe years 3 and 4. I know we've talked to you guys about that already. I think ensuring this lasts all 4 years is really critical, I think. And I think there's so much uncertainty with property taxes right now. And I think the one thing to remember too, just because we're not on the ballot in education doesn't mean that we won't be impacted. And that's something that we're closely monitoring. Other things can happen that could impact them.
Yeah, I think that's helpful. So that was helpful to hear, say that even though we've had, cuts to units, which has created kind of rearranging and like Rob says, rearranging the deck chairs, that it really has not changed drastically the employee base. So it's not like there are drastically, thousands and thousands of less employees to split the amount by. And I do know that, based on where we came in with a 2.3 million differential, that is, to your point, a little bit of a cushion for this next year to see where we end up But the good thing about our agreement is that each year we would meet, and then after year two, if it's like, wow, now we really overshot, we can look at how to maybe redistribute those or look to the next 2 years. And to your point, you know, over the 4 years of the agreement and what is coming into Hillsborough, at the end of the 4 years, there's surplus or whatever. So I think the good news is that there's no decrease. The goal here is to be cautiously optimistic so we don't overspend and then continue to look at that. So thank you for that.
I think too, we all heard such good feedback last year when employees came back to work and that money was in their paychecks.
Yeah.
And so again, that was a commitment that the district and the board made to ensure that there was no disruption to that this year,
Right.
even though we're not collecting money for this fiscal year for property taxes yet.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we're getting a lot of questions and comments about, you know, the ESE supplements, you know, especially our student services for the ASHA, the licensures and all those things. So I don't know if you're able to speak to those a little bit more, you know, I know the sense I'm getting from the team and what we will get from employees is, you know, why are these folks always left out? I know you mentioned it and I asked, you know, no other supplements included, but I think specifically for those groups that we've worked hard over the last few years to address those particular payments, especially for licensure and especially our ESE folks, because I mean, just last night I got another email from an employee, you know, what are we gonna do with the caseload and the workload and the expectations on our ESE employees because of changes in law and requirements on them. So I just, if you could at least dive a little deeper on that for those folks, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, so it's really looking at the cost of those supplements. So at the end of each year, you know, we obviously we review how much do those supplements cost. And Catherine, can you pull up just for example, like the ESC? Sorry, which on the spot. But while she's pulling that up, I mean, we understand that the challenges for our folks that are either teaching in ESE classrooms or supporting in ESE classrooms and recognize the hard work and the time. We've talked a lot about IEPs and all of those things. But I would equate it to, it's like if you have your family budget, right? And one child wants to go on vacation to Disney and one wants to go to Busch Gardens and one wants a new cell phone. And you're trying to cover all of these different costs based off of our budget right now. What we can do for all employees, what we can offer is that one step and then that top step payment. If we started to look at some of those supplements, again, that's got to come out of our budget. And then we would have to look at then how do we change that offer about that one step and that top step payment? You know, do we delay the implementation of a one step? Because the costs that we've given you today or those projections are based off of implementing that July 1. We could save money if we didn't do that effective July 1, and then maybe we could offer a supplement. So Catherine, just for example, for ESE, I'm going to pause just a second and say that on the microphone for just a second. Yeah. So just looking at the ESE supplement at $1,500 based again off of active employees with fringe comes in at a little over $4 million for that $1,500 supplement, just to put into perspective when we start looking at those.
Yeah,
Okay, and that was just for teachers. The paras would be an additional 1.7 million.
the other challenge we have is to balance this budget. It's going to be a little nerve wracking if we're dishonest. So the numbers that we gave you will require district offices, make that very clear, not schools, district offices to make a significant budget reduction. And we're not talking 10 million or 20 million. It will be significant and it will be, it's going to be challenging. And that is just to get us to the mandated fund balance for the state. So to order for this to happen and all these things is, again, we got to remember, we've already committed to $60 million for the health insurance. To make those things happen, the district cabinet is committed to making those reductions, and we're working through those right now of what they would be. And those are going to happen to able to balance this budget with the proposal that we passed along. Again, we looked at delaying that as our cost saving measures, but superintendent and this group really believe that We need to award that as best we can. And so that's the other challenge is right now, by offering this, we do not have a balanced budget.
You're sitting here, she said, you know, you gotta choose between Disney World, you have to choose between this, okay? That's like saying to us ESC teachers, do we pay rent or do we pay the lights? Our job in ESC, no disrespect, is the hardest job. And we are held to the same standards as our peers. We have to have the same training, we have to have everything. We have triple the workload. And now this to me is like, well, you guys really don't count because we don't have the budget. Whereas trying to fit them in, like we fit other people in before, to me is very disrespectful to your ESC teachers.
I hear you, and again, I want to say that it's not disrespectful. Nothing is intended to be disrespectful to any one group of employees. We are trying to present something that gives all employees a raise. And look, there's options, right? And there's a pot of money. We just have to decide and agree to how do we want to divide that up.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is that if the ESE supplement and the licensure payments were something that, you know, HCTA wanted to see, then that would likely entail delaying retro for all employees. That's kind of
That could be an option.
As an
Right, that
option,
could be an
so that
option.
like to fund those, rather than making it effective July 1, we'd have to look at an effective date a little bit later to set aside the funding to fund those particular supplements for those employees as an option.
That's an option, correct?
I just want to say, you know, when it comes, first of all, to ESE, the job has become a little bit, a lot more complex over the past few years, right? With the IEPs, and now there is the SDI log that needs to be maintained. And with the supplements, we like to look at those through the lens of this is work that's being done outside of the 8 hours. Does the district believe that these teachers can get this work done within the 8 hours with all of these mandates that are done while still meeting the needs of the students that they're serving? Because that's really what I'm struggling with, right? I hear Deb, that job is not only teaching, but it's documenting every moment of that teaching. Imagine living your life and every moment you got to stop and write on your sticky note what you just did. Rob just spoke, or whatever it may be. And so my question really is, does the district truly believe that the needs of the students and all of this crazy amount of documentation can be done during 8 hours?
And I will say that the district is committed to working with our ESC staff to improve processes and practices. I know that there is even going to be a transition this year related to those SDI logs,
Right.
Away from some of the papers, making some of it electronic now, having drop-down menus, trying to reduce some of that repetitive work and so forth. And so that is based off of feedback.
Sure.
And so we do recognize, you know, again, the state requirements that get placed on all of us as a district, and then how do we respond to those to try to improve the working conditions for our teachers and support staff who are working in ESC classrooms.
I guess let me pose it in different, and you might not be able to answer this, but does the district believe that the $4 million in savings is worth the potential loss of funding that they would get for the lack of paperwork or documentation that doesn't get done? Because I'm just letting you know, as a classroom teacher, my #1 priority are my kids, not the paper that I'm writing for an adult or an institution. It's always been that way. And I will maintain that for the people that I represent. That's what we need to do, meet their needs. But I can meet Kelly's needs and Danielle's needs, but I might miss, because in 8 hours, I'm not gonna get a chance to do that drop-down menu on SDI log and get, IEPs. So basically, I don't know what are we robbing Peter to pay Paul in this regard? And I hate that expression. One other question I have, and I don't think you could answer that right now anyway. I just wanted to throw that out there as a thought process. And then what about the sponsorships supplements that we've had for years? Are those also out as well? The ones that we have for, advanced degrees, sponsorships, and all things like that.
No, those are
Okay.
part of our contract.
Okay,
and
okay.
So those
They
would be,
can just
those would be awarded.
putting it
yes.
out there.
Yeah,
I'm
a
asking
good
that
question.
Yep.
Yeah.
In me.
And again, we're open to a counter.
Yep.
And understand.
Understood. Yeah.
Just a paperwork, it's also dealing with getting youth every day. And
Deb, thank you. I wanted to be clear that, you know, it's tough out there for all the teachers. I just want to specifically talk about the needs of an ESE teacher. And I know that what you do, we
But I'm
appreciate what, I
saying-
know that, but you know,
But I don't think they understand that. And
there are challenges in every single job in this system. I want to be clear. Even those on this side, everyone's got major challenges. Those challenges you have specifically are absolutely genuine and real. I want to really zone in on what you have to do additionally for your students that I think that's what I want to highlight, okay?
But
Please, thank you.
The 60 million you mentioned, and you may have said, and I apologize, that was in it above what was paid last year, or is, so it's 60 million additional dollars?
It's and Tracy's here to make sure, and Danielle to make sure,
Yes.
right, our health
Correct.
insurance overall costs for this year between June and July will go up roughly $60 million. Again, those are projections, but we've been fairly accurate, and Britt and Rob are part of that committee where we look at those numbers all the time. And then as the board was presented to the board in June, we recommended that none of that cost was passed on to employees, and we preserve the free plan. And I think that's really important. Like at a time where you see other districts aren't able to overcome such a large number, they're having to eliminate their free plan, and we were able to preserve that and continue that.
Employees is that 60 million approximately in the district?
So we have 20,000 employees who elect, and then they have dependents.
Okay.
Yeah, which you did provide to us as kind of the breakdown of everybody all in and broken down by the units. So you want to look at that.
Thank you.
The only other question I had was, I know you've included fringe in here. Did you by chance have the breakdown of that in a lab?
Yeah.
Tracy had a nice little. That'll be helpful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Or, I don't know. I'm giving you credit, Tracy.
Okay.
Sorry, last year I think you were the one who helped explain it, so I give you credit, but, okay, yeah. So total fringe for our folks, teachers, clerical administrators, this is with retirement, FICA, Medicare, health, life, and workers' comp is 42.8. And yeah, those health insurance costs, 21%, are factored into that, as far as what is as we say, the tax title and fees on whatever base salary increase there is, so, okay. I don't know if there's any other questions. I think let's caucus, it's right before 10. Let's just start with 30 minutes and see how that goes, and we'll communicate, ready to come back, or what we need to do for the day. Well, thank you for your patience. We reviewed what you proposed, had some discussion, and then typing it up, and hopefully there's no typos. I will admit some of these things are not costed out just because of time and things like that, but I know we'll work together on that. I think some of it we could probably piece together, but we'll pass it on. Did you guys get one?
We all have one on our team.
Thank you.
All right, so I want to say that I appreciate that you as a team on behalf of the school board really listened to some of the things that concerned us on behalf of employees. You know, the step is always a really important thing to employees, you know, based on their year of experience, and the issue of not creating a tiered system. You know how detrimental that would be and how that can be to employees. So I appreciate that and the work you did in bringing your first proposal. I just want to acknowledge that. So our counter includes all of what you all brought with some additional things. And it is, again, this is all motivated by the employees we represent based on, you know, surveys and a lot of what's going on out there. So number one is effective July 1, 2026, all instructional salary schedules shall increase by 1% and shall be updated and included in Appendix C of the collective bargaining agreement. So that would be a base pay increase of 1%. Number two, effective July 1, 2026, employees in the instructional bargaining unit who are on a 12-month salary schedule, sorry, there's an S there, shall also receive a 2% hourly increase. These salary schedules shall be updated and included in Appendix C of the collective bargaining agreement. This is probably not new. We've addressed this over the years that I've been here. There is a large disparity in the hourly rate between what our 10 and 12-month employees make. I looked at it, if we were to raise our, just, I think, step 0 on the E schedule, I believe. If you moved our 12-month employees to the same hourly rate as the 10-month, it's about a 10%. So we thought maybe if we could get started by making some changes there. Every year we've proposed something that kind of moves them a little bit closer to the same hourly rate. I know we have discussions about 12-month employees also receiving vacation pay, but you know, they're doing the same work, but for more days. And so this is something that we continually hear from our employees about the disparity in that hourly rate. So that's the intent there. Number 3, effective July 1, 2026, employees in instructional bargaining unit shall be credited with 1 year of experience and shall advance 1 step on the respective salary schedule accordingly. Eligible employees must have worked half a year plus a day and have an effective evaluation for the 25-26 school year. So that's the step. Number 4, effective July 1, 2026, employees at the top of their respective salary schedule will receive a one-time top step payment of $2,500 as an additional payment to employee-based pay. The payment will be made no later than the end of the first semester. Eligible employees must have worked half a year plus a day and have an effective evaluation for the 25-26 school year. I know the proposal today was for 1,500. Our employees last year got 2,000, so we are trying to. They don't get a step. Of course, the basis of this proposal is to help address that. Number 5, effective July 1, 2026, eligible employees who are licensed school psychologists, nationally certified school psychologists, licensed mental health counselors, licensed SLPs, licensed audiologists, licensed school social workers, licensed mental health clinicians, licensed OT-PTs, or certified behavior analysts will be paid a one-time $750 additional payment to be paid at the conclusion of the 26-27 school year. This payment is a supplement to employee-based pay. Eligible employees must have worked half plus a day of the 26-27 school year and be current active employees at the time of payment. This is continuing what we've done, no increase to that licensure payment that we've done. Number 6, effective July 1, 2026, eligible SLPs and audiologists who hold their ASHA-Cs, the American Speech Language Hearing Association Certified Clinical Competency, shall be paid a one-time additional payment of $1,500 to be paid at the conclusion of the 26-27 school year. This payment is a supplement to employee-based pay. Eligible employees must have worked half plus a day of the 26-27 school year and be current active employees at the time of payment. This is continuing the ASHA-C's payment that we already have. No increase to what we've been paying. Number 7, effective July 1, 2026, school psychologists will be eligible for a that's supposed to be 2,500. 2,500 school psychologist critical shortage supplement for the 26-27 school year to be paid by the end of the first semester. Should this payment date have to change, HCT and HCPS will reconvene to determine the date of payment. This payment is a supplement to employee-based pay and FRS eligible. Eligible employees must be current active employees at the time of payment. And on this, I just want to address the school psychologist. You know, when I came in here, there's been many years that group of employees were on a salary schedule that was left behind for many, many years, while other instructional employees were receiving increases to those base salary schedules. We know then a couple years, 3 years ago, I believe, then we developed the student services schedule, and we moved a lot of like guidance and a lot of employees over, which created large increases for those folks. The school psychologists did not get that. So the goal of this payment is to acknowledge that we have mass vacancies. I mean, we are having to pay to private contractors, and we see those contracts over time. You know, the more employees that go to it, it's harder to get them to come to the district. Those contracts also then have percentage increases that we know that the school board ultimately has to pick up. We see that over and over again. We know school board members have addressed that, other contracts with outside vendors, they have, more than cost of living increases. So this is the basis of this proposal to help support and actually recruit. We were just talking in our caucus that some of our contracted school psychologists actually want to work for the district. They love their school, but they can't afford it, is their response. But they cannot afford to come work for the school district, which is bananas. So that is really the basis of this. We've got, great folks on our team who have been advocating hard for this for many years. So we're hoping that we can do something to address that. Number 8 is the ESE instructional employees with the attached job codes. All instructional employees at our exceptional centers and school psychologists will receive an additional one-time ESE critical shortage supplement of $2,000. In the past, we paid this at $1,500, so the proposal is to increase it. To be paid at the conclusion of the 26-27 school year. This payment is a supplement to employee-based pay. Eligible employees must be current active employees at the time of payment. Number 9, this is in accordance with section 22.45. For the 26-27 school year, eligible national board certified teachers shall receive up to a one-time $1,000 additional payment for the completion of their 10 hours of approved mentoring and or conducting approved training through the professional learning department. Payment shall be made after submission and approval of all required documentation. This payment is a supplement to employee-based pay. Eligible employees must be current active employees at the time of payment. We've done this one traditionally for many years, so we wanted to make sure that we continue to bargain that piece of the contract. And this is for all eligible national board, not just those that are transformation and designated schools of need. So number 10 is the language about national board for the 26-27 school year. The national board certified teachers who teach in the transformation schools and designated schools of need shall be paid the one-time $4,500 additional payment to be paid no later than the conclusion of the 26-27 school year. This payment is a supplement to employee-based pay. Eligible employees must be current active employees at the time of payment. We know that's already encapsulated in the MOUs, but it's here as you all presented it as well. Number 11 and 12 should be the language that you all proposed. I think I maybe changed a little bit, just saying the MOU is the appendix, but number 11 is for the 26-27 school year. The parties agreed to pay the highly qualified teachers as defined by state and federal statute who are in our transformation schools. And the MOU shall be paid the salary differential of $2,000 for the tier 1, $5,000 for tier 2 and 3. And they must have an effective or higher evaluation and be eligible for their assignment by certification or completed agreement to earn. That was a little bit of my change there because I think we talked about
Yes.
this. So willing to work on that language. This payment shall be paid in accordance with the agreed upon MOU. It's the same there for number 12 for the 26-27 school year. The parties agree to pay the highly effective teachers as defined by state and federal statute who teach in designated schools of need. MOU and Appendix D shall be paid a salary differential of $2,000. Employees must have an effective or higher evaluation and be eligible for their assignment by certification or completed agreement to earn. And this payment shall be paid in accordance with agreed upon MOU. Both of those MOUs spell out like when they're paid and how they're paid. Number 13, agreeing with your proposal in accordance with 3.4.6 for the 26-27 school year. Any instructional unit employee assigned to substitute duty during their planning choosing to be compensated shall be paid at the rate of $20 per hour. And number 14 is for the full cost of the employee-only health insurance premium for a designated health plan in accordance with 13.2.1. And number 15 is for the cost of the fingerprint monitoring fees in accordance with section 13.11. And then just on the third page is the list of the job codes that would go with number 8 for ESE. So we know that some of these we could probably piece together and cost out based on what you helped provide us, but I do recognize that some of these things I did not have time in our little hour break to cost them out.
No, we understand that.
But I know we can work on that together. We'll do our best to cost it out based on the employee data we have and some of the information you've given us. And if there's something that we don't know, we know you all will be able to crunch those numbers as well. So I don't know if there's anything that I missed in the presentation of that.
I don't think so.
Okay, and if you have any questions.
No, I think all of it reads pretty clearly, and again, several of them are in alignment with previous proposals, so we're familiar with those. Well, some of them we have costed out already, others will go back and cost out, and we can share that information with you too.
Yeah, that'd be helpful. 'Cause
Okay.
I know you helped share some numbers, which I jotted down, and then when I didn't take the time to note it out to try to.
No, understood, and I can send that to you.
Okay.
No, we appreciate this, and
Yeah.
I think then our next business would be for us to take this back, cost those out, and,
We'll do the
I think
same.
on Monday was our next plan to meet.
Yeah, so let's find my agenda. I lost it here somewhere. Here we go.
I forgot it.
Yeah, so I know we had actually scheduled the 27th, I believe, also in conjunction with ESP bargaining. My thought there, and what we told our team for ESP was to start that day with the ESP so that we could also offer a compensation proposal there for them.
Okay.
If you have any counters with, I mean, we only had a few language pieces, but the majority of theirs is compensation, and since we're already here with instructional, I think it would be at least trying to get that off the table, even if we have to come back. Maybe start with them in the morning and then spend the rest of the day with instructional. Or thoughts, I think.
You wanna put caucus and talk through that, or?
Yeah, we can do that too.
Yeah, because we know that we have the looming deadline with TSIA, our just
understand.
concern is, and there's a board meeting that week, and there's just so
Gotcha.
many other things
Okay.
happening that we'll have such limited time.
Gotcha.
So really, our goal, and I think Lord does too, is when we leave on Monday,
Okay.
to have the TSIA. My only concern is if we start with ESP that morning,
Okay.
we're just really cutting into that day, potentially.
Okay.
You know, especially if we try to go back and forth around
Okay.
what's proposed, so it
Okay.
might make more sense for us to start with.
Okay.
with
And
the
that's fine.
instructional.
I think we've absolutely communicated our desire. We don't want to put ourselves in a forced impasse.
Right.
I mean, even if, I mean, and I will just say, if we work a full day on the 27th and we're working and we really are like, we need a little more time, and now it's after the 30th, I mean, even if that is notified in some way, like, I think we express that, like, that does not mean we stop bargaining. Even if we were actually outside of the states, forced impasse, if in negotiation, either of us has said, we're really not moving, we can keep negotiating, and then we can say, hey, we're settled now, even if we've had the file or whatever the document requires, the guidance and the law requires for impasse. So we are committed to trying to get this done timely. So yeah, so that's.
What if we started with instructional
Yep,
on
sure.
Monday,
Fine.
right? If we're able to get to a place, because I think we're getting there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then we could, if time permits and you wanted to propose something related to ESP,
Okay,
then that would also give us an opportunity to review that.
okay.
And schedule a date.
While you guys are in break, well, I know, because I think, didn't we release the ESPs for the morning that day? Yeah, so we'd have to reverse that.
Switch
So
that
I
around.
think we would just have to,
Do you wanna do
Julie and I
that?
can work with that.
okay.
Julie, sorry.
Yeah.
We appreciate you so much, by the way.
Yeah.
But we heard that, we might play
And
the shell
Sherry,
game. We're gonna move the ESPs to later and instructional in the morning.
Okay.
So,
And Sherry too, because Sherry was like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? And I was like,
We
so
took a
that-
shot.
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
was our guidance. So do you need us to resubmit that, or what would be easier?
I think we'll just coordinate with you about a potential time change, and then we can just communicate that via
So
email
the
to the
ESPs that got
supervisors.
released, just let them know, okay.
I just have the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Regina? I mean, it's so hard to estimate. Usually it's like, oh, we're gonna get this done really quick, like I thought 30 minutes and it took me an hour.
let me just propose the idea that we have ESPs come in at 1 or 12, that would grab lunch, and then we can figure it out. We might still be working here. We could figure it all out. We're all working through the same end.
Yeah, and then at least we can end the day with a proposal, even if it's hey, we know we can't continue just because of time or need to cost out. Okay.
So we'll plan for 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
For ESP.
I just
In
wanna
terms of
say-
release time.
I just want to
Yeah.
say that
Okay.
we spoke from this table saying that we were committed to getting this done by the end of July. And it's clear from what you guys brought today that you guys are also committed to making something happen. We also know that we're saddled in working in a state where public education is marginalized and funding is 50th in the nation, and we're cutting up a pie that is way too small for our needs. That is we recognize that. That being said, we still feel like there's a little bit more work that can be done here. And thank you for coming back on Monday. We'll hope to do something then.
We're gonna plan for 9 o'clock on Monday, or do we need to move that to 10?
I think we're okay with
9
9. I
okay.
think it would just be a switch of, like, we had for the ESPs to be released. They usually arrive at 8. We can kind of prep. But I think we need to
We'll
switch
switch
that to the
those.
so our instructional team needs to be released. If there are any,
If there are more,
who
yeah.
require that, our 12-month employees, so that they can, I would say the full day, so that they can arrive by 8. And then our ESP team that had been put in release for the morning, they would need to be released probably at noon, so that they could arrive by 1. Even if we start with them, they can at least observe and at some point in the afternoon, get their proposal across.
All right, no, I mean, that's what she is.
Okay, so Sherry will send that to Julie just so we have a fresh list. Thank you, Sherry and Julie, for your help with that. Alrighty, well.
Thank you, and thank you. We know that this is a lot for you all to go back to and process and get together, so we appreciate that. And I think that whole side task
Yeah,
to trying
Yeah.
to get us to a landing place.
all right, well, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
See you